Okay, so Leaseweb, you fairly recently published research into MSPs and their public cloud providers, and the headline findings seem to be that MSPs are overspending on hyperscalers cloud services. Indeed, I think they cited that managing costs in terms of the hyperscalers is their number one challenge. So just your thoughts as to that finding and why that might be the case, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose it was interesting and not interesting, if you like, not an unusual sort of a finding that they're paying too much. MSPs, you know, as I say, are middlemen usually, and they sort of work on their services and make their profits around that. I mean, I suppose the investment that MSPs have to make and have to undertake with training, certifications, accreditations with hyperscalers mean they kind of get tied in to that sort of that way of working, and then, you know, they then have to sort of manage those costs accordingly. So, you know, it's sort of it's frightening, the investment, the cost in the investment. I come from an MSP background, and frightening the cost of the investment that you have to make to work in this arena, working with the hyperscalers. And of course, you know, their pricing is dictated by a much larger market, and it sort of moves and increases pretty rapidly every year. And you know, most MSPs are sort of having to swallow that. So yeah, it's no surprise that price is sort of the number one headline, really.
And in terms of some of the other challenges highlighted in the survey, there's things around sort of the ability to customize services, I guess, the control that MSPs potentially have, and also customer services, perhaps, yeah, what they get from the hyperscalers in terms of customer services is perhaps not all that it might be. Are those, yeah, again, perhaps you can expand a little bit on those?
Yeah. I mean, from a control side of things, let's deal with that side of it first. From the MSP side, it's quite, once you've gone down the route, it is quite difficult to work yourself sort of out of the route. And I think we're getting to quite a nice sort of period now where, you know, we all started off in data centers and you know, physical hardware. Then we moved, you know, workloads to the cloud, and it was all the all-seeing eye, and it was great, and everything, you know, was going to change the world of MSPs, and you know, was going to make everyone sort of lots of money. And now we've come to the sort of stage where it's got the intelligence around it, the intelligence around technology, and the intelligence around where and how you work with workloads is getting better and better. And of course, the customers demand that. They see that themselves. Customers are very intelligent nowadays. You know, we're working much more with technology on a day-to-day basis, so customers know themselves. I mean, if you think of it, if you know, from a price perspective or anything else, if you were employed to do someone's weekly shopping or monthly shopping, you wouldn't necessarily do it all in Waitrose. You know, you'd work with workloads, and you know, there's certain things that'd be great in Waitrose for quality, and there's certain things for sort of bulk scale, if we relate those, that you might be going to Lidl, you might be going to Costco for. And I suppose that's, you know, that's the pinch point now where MSPs are starting to move to, is to be able to offer that variation that really then suits the client, because there are negatives to it. You know, everyone saw it as just a positive because I'll get rid of my IT and it just goes out here somewhere. But that's not the case. And when you're looking at sort of service, you know, no one's saying that it's bad service from sort of hyperscalers and what have you, but it's standard service. The difference with an MSP, you know, MSPs have their own customers, and you know, a hyperscaler doesn't realize who your top client is. And in times of good times, everyone's service is good. Let's face it, you know, it's easy. When everything's working, when everything's fine, service is fine because you're not speaking to anyone. It's in the bad times, it's when something goes wrong that you really start to notice those little sort of tweaks, really, where MSPs reliant on a third party, and we all do, MSPs across the world, you're all reliant on someone, you're all taking services from someone else. But it's in those times when it really shines. And I think talking to the MSPs, that's where they feel the letdown. It's not on the day-to-day. It's the appreciation of how important things are to them and their clients in times of trouble.
And I'm guessing as well that they potentially don't have an account manager, a dedicated account manager for the hyperscaler. So when there is an issue, they don't necessarily know who to go to. I don't know whether they just send an email sort of out there and hope that somebody sees it and gets found the reasonable period of time. But I suppose that's back to customer service. But the lack of a dedicated account manager is a bit of an issue as well.
Yeah, I mean, you to not put too much of a dampener on them, you do tend to get an account manager. So you'll tend to get an account manager. But if you think of the focus, so the focus of your account manager, if you're with any of the hyperscalers, is selling licenses. That's their focus. So they're account managing from a financial perspective. You don't tend to get a dedicated customer service expert or a customer services manager. So it's a different experience. So I can guarantee your account manager will be on the end of the phone in seconds if you're looking to buy something. But if something's gone down, that's when the call might take a bit longer, and that's when the answers will take a bit longer, and that's when, in your example, that's when you're kind of putting requests out into the ether to see who answers it. So yeah, there is a level of account management, but it tends to be more on the sort of financial transactional perspective, whereas MSPs are built on relationships. They're built on the personal touch. That's why clients don't go direct to sort of hyperscalers in large part, is because they want that person in the middle. They want someone that has that scale within their business that can get a little bit further up the chain if problems happen. So yeah, I think that would be where they would see the struggle.
And I'm wondering, is fear of vendor lock-in, is that another issue potentially for dealing with the hyperscalers, that they kind of want to own you and make it difficult to go, to your point earlier, shopping in Waitrose and various other places, they want you to just shop in Waitrose and make it difficult for you to go elsewhere? Yeah,
they do. It's becoming less. It's becoming less because it's being pushed that way. It's becoming easier to sort of blend other technologies, so you don't have to go just down this one route, and you don't have to just rely on one platform really to provide your services. So the vendor lock-in bit is quite painful and can be quite painful, and sort of charges for egress as well, from removing services from. But it's a challenge that MSP's been doing for a long time, and they'll continue to do, because if you are looking at providing the correct sort of price performance for your client, you have to, because you'd be lying to say that there's no one out there. My company, Leaseweb, if I sat here and said we are the absolute ideal company for every single customer out there, we'd be lying. We're not. We might be a bit for certain pieces. And it's the same as everyone. You are correct for your right markets, and MSPs and the like. When you're slightly smaller, you seem to be slightly more focused on a certain market, on a certain vertical, on a certain technology, which means you can sort of you can really sort of hone in on that and provide the services around that, rather than being the sort of jack of all trades. So I suppose that's a little bit sort of around the vendor lock-in is a concern for sure, but it is starting to, with the intelligence of MSPs, with the knowledge that you are capable of having different workloads in different places, it's starting to become easier to do. It's starting to become easier to switch, right? I mean, in our general life, we never we'd stay with one gas supply, one electricity supplier for life, because we knew as soon as we tried to switch, we'd get 2 bills the next day. We'd never get our money back from the first bill. They'd keep charging us. Who would have you'd never get another meter reading. Whereas now you do it on a website and it's all done for you. So people are far more keen to be able to do those switches.
Yeah, and in fairness as well, I think this survey revealed that some of the sort of issues we've talked about, the MSPs also experience with the non-hyperscaler cloud providers, but potentially not as extreme. Is that right? Just your, I suppose, compare and contrast hyperscalers versus the non-hyperscaler public cloud providers.
Yeah, totally. And I think that the biggest sort of comparison is the fact that hyperscalers are transactional. MSPs are relational relationships. That's what they rely on. So. They are good. There is a purpose, an absolute purpose with hyperscalers. But from the sort of MSP side, you're bound to get a more touchy-feely experience because they wouldn't survive without it. That's what they build it on. Service is their biggest product. Most of us now, people are always talking to me about USPs and there's very little unique in the marketplace. There's SPs, there's lots of selling points that you can offer, but they're not unique. We're all doing pretty similar things. So the selling points are you service better, you supply better, you make sure you're there, your ears for the customer, and you're also a voice for the customer. You've got to be. You can't just sit on 3 and 5 year contracts and let them just run down on where they are. Technology moves too quickly, and the benefits for the customer are endless. But it's just got to be dealt with in the right way.
And I don't know, did the survey uncover any? I mean, were people positive? As to any advantages in dealing with the hyperscalers as opposed to non, or were they fairly ambivalent as to the pluses of dealing with those folks?
No, I think, as I said, there's some massive bonuses with hyperscalers. There's absolute fits. There's many sort of technologies. There's many applications that should sit in those places. Their suite of applications, that they can offer is tremendous. But they are a big, if you like, there's a big vat of options that very rarely, I think the old adage with PCs and Windows was we use 5% of its capability, and it's going to be the same now. Most people don't need all of the technology all of the time. But there are benefits, definite benefits, and I think the sort of going back to the analogy with the Waitrose, this is where the sort of hybrid world comes to the fore. The hyperscalers are great at doing scale, speed of transaction, speed of purchase. They're great at that because that's what they're built for.
So I guess in terms of any conclusions, it would be fair to say there's room for cloud providers, wherever their background, whether hyperscale or not, to improve or at least differentiate themselves from other MSPs. Because, as I say, there's some, I'll call them significant downsides, but put it like this: MSPs recognise that there is room for improvement from the people that provide them. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's really fair to say. I think there's room for improvement everywhere. I don't think we've ever been in a better time for the client if MSPs and service providers like us treat the client with the respect that they deserve and start to really look at where MSPs sit, where hyperscalers sit, where cloud providers sit, varying types, and just putting that jigsaw together. What do you need? When do you need it? The whole thing of in the past was always to sort of over provision, so that there was a bit of spare, there was a bit of space. But you can provision now for a client what's just needed. You want to be exactly what is needed at this moment in time, because the scale is done for you. It's available. So I think the sort of the hybrid world is leading to a plethora of opportunity for MSPs. to get even closer to their client, and mixing that in. Don't try and, with the other cloud providers, don't try and compete. Compliment. And it is a compliment. Anyone that says it's not, you've got to compliment. They do some really good stuff, but they don't do everything exactly how you want it.
And so I suppose put it the other way, or another sort of consideration is that MSPs should also understand the nuances of the market. So when they're putting together their suite of services for their customers, they shouldn't necessarily be bamboozled, should we say, by the headline of it. They need to sort of drill down and find out exactly what cloud providers were, whether they're hyperscale or not, what it is that they can provide, and as you say, and then MSPs can put together a sort of a good all-round package, as opposed to going down one route which might be good for some things and not for others. Yeah,
totally agree. And it's not their fault. At the end of the day, you've only got so much budget to go around, and the one downside, as I say, with the hyperscalers is the drive that they do to make sure that you have teams of people that are trained, certified, and this is all good stuff, right? No one wants anyone dealing with them that doesn't know their product. So it's good stuff. But the cost to this, it just leads MSPs to take this one direction, and that's kind of a bit forced, because you're taking up resource of skills within your sort of unit, within your teams. You just don't have the budget to train in everything. And this is the bit where you're starting to see MSPs just wake up to it a bit, so they're not just having every single person that's only able to offer one platform, only able to offer sort of the hyperscale route. And you've got to offer everything. You don't want, there's certain workloads, there's certain applications you don't want to be paying top dollar for. You hardly touch them. And it gets down to departmental. We see a lot now where, within a customer, you've got 5 customers because you've got 5 departments. The HR department has totally different needs than the finance department. Finance department has totally different needs from the sales department. Well, if you just give everyone the same suite of tools and you're paying for the same suite of tools, well, you're losing money. You're paying too much. So I think it's you've started to see it already. We work with some great MSPs who are really getting it, and the beneficiary of that is the client, which is exactly where it should be.
Okay, maybe just before we finish, in terms of any sort of future plans from Leaseweb, is there anything you can share, sort of give us any sort of hints as to what might be on the horizon from yourselves?
Yeah, it's an exciting time for us. So we're expanding. We're in nine countries now, and we're looking to expand that out. We've just launched our own public cloud, and this interview wasn't an advertisement for it, because again, it has its place, So we've launched public cloud. We're launching our sort of other products onto the market. We're launching managed Kubernetes. We have a large CDN network. But it's sort of business as usual for us. We're a privately owned company. We have the same sort of ethos and culture now as we did sort of when Con started the business 27 years ago. And it is to make sure that, we put the customer at the heart of everything we do, and we'll continue to grow for that reason.
Okay, as ever, it's been great to chat to you, and some interesting thoughts as to the world of cloud, which, as you say, is constantly moving, and update on Leaseweb. So Terry, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.